Good.
Those that work at New Zealand Steel, I can't see any framework by which that could conceivably stay. It means that we can have no emissions from the transport sector. It means that we can have zero emissions from other industrials. And so I simply challenge those that promote that point of view. In my trade, you need to be upfront with your fellow New Zealanders about what that means. And it does mean a very radical and significant change. So my challenge back is to those that want to reduce New Zealand's emissions to 36 million tonnes by 2020, need to identify across that sector as to where it's going to come from. And if you want to seriously persuade your fellow New Zealanders that that is what's required, then you need to be able to answer that question, because quite frankly, as the Climate Change Minister, that's the question that I need to answer. The second point is around the science, and where has the government got to on that? There's been a couple of points. That New Zealand's position in the international negotiations has been to a 2-degree limit in temperature rise, and for carbon equivalent in the atmosphere not exceeding 450 ppm, and we've stated that in our international negotiating position. Are we waiting for Australia with Wgtn? No, we're not. But it is the government's view that given the extent to which the New Zealand and Australian economies are integrated with CER, that it does make good sense for us to align our emissions trading schemes as much as possible. The analogy I would make is if you go back 150 odd years, they decided on a different rail width to us, and from the very, very beginnings, that made it very difficult to align. So the more that we can do similar. Now some have said, oh, hang on a sec, Australia's emissions profile is very different to New Zealand's. Absolutely true. About 80% of theirs is from coal-generated power, not us. So does that mean that we shouldn't have an ETS that operates intertradability between the two countries? No, actually quite the opposite. If New Zealand and Australia had absolutely identical emissions profiles, there'd be no benefit at all in trading between the two. The benefits of trading actually comes from their big differences. I actually don't know whether the least cost emissions reduction is by planting more trees or by, for instance, cleaning up their dirty coal power stations. But if you have an interoperable scheme between the two countries, then it will automatically adopt the lesser cost model. And so there's a good rational approach for that. Electric cars, my electric car is lithium batteries, it's a Hyundai. The lithium is 100% recyclable. So yes, the batteries do have a limited life, but at the end of that life they can be reprocessed into new batteries. I'm not saying electric cars is the only answer, but it is my view that battery technology is going to be part of the revolution that's required. Changes in the RMA, yes, the government is putting a major RMA reform bill through. I'll give you a simple example where climate change has been the loser. Fran would be well aware of the debate in this city about the West Wind Meridian project. It took nearly 3 years for that to get the resource consent process. During the course of the years of delay over that consent, over 1 million tonnes of unnecessary carbon emissions was put up to keep the lights on by us running Huntly for more hours. And so if we can get those processes more efficiently, then the government's view is that that is a sensible thing. And it should not take that long to get approval for a renewable energy project. Last comment is about the EU. A number of speakers have noted that the European Union has been able to commit to, it's made more progress than anywhere else on emissions reductions, and is committed to bolder targets. What's behind that? I'll be upfront with you. The EU has included in recent years a large number of ex-Soviet countries. All of those ex-Soviet economies collapsed with the changes of the Berlin Wall coming down, and their emissions dropped hugely. Nothing to do with climate change policy, everything to do with major other socio-political changes. And so, when the European Union has spread and incorporated those countries, they've been able to bank that big collapse in industrial economies, which is sort of colloquially called, I think in the international negotiations, referred to as hot air. So in making those comparisons, you do need to look at some of the wider things, because a large amount of the reduction in emissions in the European bloc has been because of that, rather than any great success of climate change policies. That is not to say that there are some good things taking place in Europe that we should take note of, but that we need to be cautious on some of that biggest picture. I've enjoyed the contributions. I look forward to seeing you.
What about the Happy Valley Coal?
Oh yes, there was. Yeah, happy. I have a large number of questions, and the simple answer that I give to that is that if New Zealand stopped exporting coal,
Good idea.
do we think?
Yeah.
Do you think there would be one less tonne of coal burnt in China? I don't. There would simply obtain the coal from somewhere else in the world, and we would have cost many New Zealanders on the west coast their jobs for no gain. And so you do need to have, an international perspective to the issue, and that is that I am not prepared. Some people have said, "Oh, ignore the economy," and if you're in the Green Party and your only interest is the environment, that's possible. But I make no bones about that the current presentation is deliberately blue-green. And the program of the government is to carefully balance economic and environment policy, and that will be what comes through in our approach to this important issue of climate change.
Right. Thank you, Minister. We're now going to have some more